Welcome back to another episode of Selling Success. I have Danielle Reidy here with the Brown-Reidy Team with REMAX Services. We work in the same office. I'm so happy to have her here with me. I look up to her. She's an amazing realtor and friend, and I'm so excited to have her on my show. So welcome.
Thank you, Becky. I love being here with you. I do have a little bit of a cough and cold going on today, but
We'll
I'll
make
work
do.
through it. So I've got a scraggly voice, but I'm happy to be here.
So let's tell everyone a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, I've been in South Florida for about 30 years. I stopped counting after 30. I became a realtor 5 years ago, and I absolutely love it. I was a talent agent for a couple decades before that, and that's how I met Susan, who was the Brown of the Brown-Reidy Team. And she was my realtor. I was her talent agent. And it just from there, she always told me I understood the contracts better than some of the agents that she worked with when we were buying and selling my houses. And that if I ever wanted to get in the business, she would teach me. And eventually I did. And I absolutely love it.
How long have you been in real estate for?
It'll be 5 years in October.
Yay!
Yeah. And it feels like a minute. And I wish I started in my 20s because it's absolutely like...
And you love it.
I love it. I'd say I only work when I'm awake. And it's not work.
I only work when I'm awake.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's not work. Like, I just love it. One of my hobbies, like looking for houses and all
I
that,
know.
you know.
I do too. It's like the craziest thing when I look at a house sometimes and the client's like, I don't like it. I'm like, are you crazy?
Right?
I'm like,
But
this
it's got
is
a new
such a
roof.
great buy. It's got a new roof. The bones of the structure are here. You can
Right.
redo everything
Right.
inside. I see the potential. Can't you see it? They're like, no,
No,
this is ugly.
that's all right. They can only buy one at a time. That's what
That's
I
right.
usually say.
That's very true.
But-
so what made you get into real estate?
Well, I wanted to do it for a long time, but the fear of being self-employed again was what held me back. Not having a steady paycheck coming in. You know how it is when you first start building your business.
Yeah.
So I did it anyway.
Wasn't it like that in your talent agency as well?
Well, I was very established. I was in the business before I went out and opened my own agency, so there was a lot less risk at that point. I knew that I had a sustained business ready to go. But I just worked full time. I got my license and went at night, and then I started shadowing Susan so I could learn the business. I joke that I was too old to be the new kid on the block, so I had to figure it out before I started, showing houses.
Yeah.
So I shadowed Susan for about 6 months, learned the ins and outs, learned how to write a contract, how to work every kind of lockbox there is, so you're not,
Oh, yeah.
When you first start.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just took off. I was still working full time. Then I dropped to part time. Then I dropped to more part time. And then I was finally like, I got this. So
Why would you leave that agency?
the talent agency business.
Yeah, the talent agency.
Well, that's a long story. But basically, when the economy tanked back in 2007 and 2008, production dollars shrunk. So they stopped coming to South Florida to shoot national commercials and had big budget campaigns. They kept them closer to home in New York and LA. So the commercial market here really dried up, and I couldn't support my staff. I was paying them and not myself.
Oh, wow.
And I finally said, this is not working anymore. So I managed a few talent because I had, some really successful actors who I had worked with for years, and they did not want to let me go. So I managed some talent. I helped them get out to LA and, established out there. And then I eventually phased out. And then I did a few other things before becoming a realtor that were a lot less exciting. So once I got into real estate, I was like, this is it. This was my next, my talent agency was my life for the first 20 years of my career. And then this is an excellent replacement because I love it just as much.
That's awesome. What do you feel about being in real estate for 5 years now? Do you think that the market's changed a little bit from 2 years ago?
Right.
Although everyone said they had their best year a year or two ago, I honestly felt like it was probably my most challenging year in real
Definitely.
estate because you're competing against 80 other offers and everyone new in the industry that just got their license.
Right.
So I almost felt like that was the hardest
It was
for me in
hard.
real estate because you're competing against so many agents and so many contracts. I felt like it was my difficult
rough.
time.
And I feel I'm very grateful that I started before the craze of the
Yes.
last 2 years because at least I know what normal is and I learned how to work in a normal environment. But it was exhilarating at the same time.
Exactly.
And on the listing side, I had more listings than buyers through the craze, but it was still hard. Like a lot of buyers agents think, oh, you're the listing agent. How bad could it be? When you're guiding your seller to pick one of 18 offers
I know.
and then you're fingers are crossed that you make it to closing with that one out of this, because the other 17 have now moved on.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of pressure on both sides.
A ton of pressure.
And the missing out on, writing contracts that you're working at the best of your buyers, putting their best foot forward, but you still know they may not get the house, and you still have to write those offers and give them a best shot every time. Though it was draining. But I like to say, I've tracked my business this year, and I'm like fractionally off from where I was last year at this time, which is shocking to me, because I was working 7 days a week last year. Like I didn't have, I think I took off December with my husband's health, but I worked every day. So to see where I am this year in comparison with the balance that I have, not that I have full days off, but I'm working a lot less than I was, a lot less frantically. You're a lot less reactive in this market. You can be
right. You
prepared.
can breathe for a second. You can wait a couple of days. You can have the buyers actually think before
exactly
hurrying up, going home or your office and writing up a contract and then submitting it and then going back and forth and negotiating about 30 times.
Right. And then if you don't get it, you still don't have a house. Right. You still have nothing to show for, your days on top of days worth of work. So it was crazy. I think I agree with you too. A lot of the newer agents who got in just for the money and they thought it was going to be a get-rich-quick scheme. Everyone's doing real estate.
Yeah.
They've moved on to realize it's not that easy. It's
not. It's work.
It's work, and it's a business, and you have to run it like a business and treat it like a business.
Yeah.
So I think we'll always have competition, being that we're here in South Florida, obviously.
Right.
Still know everyone, knows someone who's a realtor. But when you build your relationships with your clients over the years, no matter the market, no matter the craze, you still have built up a business of clients.
How do you build your relationship with your clients?
Just myself. I mean, I joke and say I can sell a $3 million house. I can sell a $50,000 house. I'm always going to be the same. I'm going to behave the same. I'm going to dress the same because I'm me. And if they want to work with me, regardless of the product that I'm selling, I will do an excellent job, learn my product, make sure that I put it in the best light I can. But there's only one me. And that takes age, I think, for me to have figured that out, because it's, you think, oh, let me go get my Louis whatever shoes to wear to this $3 million listing. But as a friend and colleague in real estate said, those clients don't necessarily want you to wear the same shoes they do. They want you to be the realtor who knows how to get through this transaction. And that's really the mentality that I approach it with.
Right, and which is very true. Mm-hmm. They don't care what you wear.
Exactly.
They care that you know the business and that you know how to represent them properly.
Right, and that you care. And that's the thing, myself and Susan, we really, and as far as being a team goes, if you were to ask me about teams, which you haven't yet, but I'll just jump ahead.
Yeah, tell us about teams. I'm on a team, you're on a team.
Yes, and because it's been your life, but my partnership with Susan, having someone who matches your integrity and how you treat your clients is everything.
Yes.
And she knew me we've known each other for 30 years. So we knew we had that common makeup and that I could trust my clients in her hands and she could trust her clients in my hands, and they would come away with the same feeling like we have their back, we know what we're doing, and we do the right thing. So that's what's really worked for us as a team, is being from the same cloth. And you guys are obviously from the same cloth since you're all Skebas.
Since we're all family. Yeah. And it's hard. I hear so many people. I have a friend of mine that's on a team with another brokerage, and he's like, it's not working.
It doesn't always
work.
And
I'm like, it's hard. And you're lucky that it did work for you, because it doesn't always work on a team.
Right.
Because people have different goals, different mindsets. Sometimes people just have you on a team, honestly, to just get, and I hate to say it like this, but they just want to get a percentage of your commission.
Right.
They don't help you. They don't train you. No. You're just a part of the, let's say, I'm going to use this as an example. This is not a team here, like the Smith team.
Right.
And like they just use it just so they can get,
more heads,
more money, and they don't really help you. They don't train you properly. To be honest, I had ours is a family business, and my parents have been in it for my entire life. I've been in real estate since we've moved to Florida. It's what I know, but it's like, my parents were never like, here, let's sit down and properly train you. Right. It was just like installed in me since I was a child. I'm sure I have a ton of bad habits.
But you learned through osmosis, really, because you were there through it all.
Right, so I watched it all.
Right.
And, I've thought about hiring a couple people onto my team, and then I'll interview them and I'll talk to them. And they're like, so when do I start? I'm like, oh, this is an interview on both ends.
Right.
This is an interview to see if I like you and I'm able to work with you just like you're able to work with me. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I thought we could just like get, I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
No, it's important.
Yeah. I'm like, cause I got to make sure that we mesh. Cause if we don't mesh, I don't want to deal with the repercussions of that because it's just messy.
It's messy. And it's, your clients are at stake and your reputation is at stake and everything that you've worked so hard to build.
Yes.
You don't want to.
And I don't want them to be like, well, I work for the Skeba team.
Right.
And, and I use my maiden name, my Skeba name, because that's what people know in the real estate aspect of it. If I say Mancini, people are like, who?
Right.
People have no idea. Yeah. So, and to be honest with you, and my name has gotten me through some doors. Some offers.
Absolutely.
Because my parents have been in it for so many years that I've submitted offers and they look at my last name and they're like, okay. And I hate saying that, but the agent's like, we know how you guys work.
Right.
We know your representation. So we want to work with somebody that we know how they're going to deal with the transaction.
And your parents worked hard to earn that.
Very
so
hard.
Shouldn't you?
Very hard. And I have to I'm so particular about how I am as well. Cause I'm like, I would never, ever want to let them down or myself for that matter. So I'm very cautious on how I do my real estate as well. I don't just take anything. Before I would take everything. I've done a lot of training with our broker.
Yes, he's wonderful.
He's amazing. He has his show here too. It's called Breakfast with the Broker. And he has told me before, I've been in his office like, this client, he's like, cut him off, fire him. I'm like, no, I am not going to fire this client.
Right.
He's like, so you're just going to take the abuse? I'm like, until I do the transaction, then I'll cut him off.
Right.
He's like, your best power you can have is to fire him. You get another client. And I was just like, holy cow. That's when I felt like, okay, I'm good in real estate. When I could fire $1 million client and be like, hit the road, Jack.
It's not worth the aggravation.
It's not worth the $30,000 because let me tell you, that man was the most stressful client I think I've ever had in my entire career. It was
awful.
Brutal.
And imagine having to prolong it for a month or two longer.
A month or two, and then he wound up not even buying a property.
I hope he doesn't come back to you when he's ready.
I don't think so. I think he's a renter that's probably going to rent for the rest of his life,
Which is fine.
Which is fine. It's just his prerogative.
Waste of time.
Yeah. It just was a total waste of time. He would yell at me if the roof was like 3 years old. Like, why would they redo the whole house and the roof? I'm like, the roof is only 3 years old. I'm like, holy cow, this is like a brand new house. But it's not. He's just a miserable person.
We do. We deal with all types of personalities.
Completely.
The general public. And you have to be somewhat selective.
Yes.
You've been in this a long time, so where you can say, and that was good advice he gave you, just fire them. You free up your time for the clients who will appreciate you and do need your help to come in. And if you were working with someone torturing you, you wouldn't be free to help the ones that actually need you.
Right. So, and he's like, you're just making room. I'm like, I can't do it.
You do. And it works.
And it did. Yeah. I did fire him as a client. I couldn't believe it. And I was so nervous to tell him on the phone, like,
And I'm sure he went and tortured someone else's life for a while.
I'm sure he did. But I look him up on, Tax Appraiser all the time to see if he
bought anything. We are a little stalkerish, aren't we?
We are. We're in real estate.
Exactly.
It's so funny. Somebody once told me like, oh, my daughter, I don't know why my daughter, she's getting older. One of my daughters is 12 years old now. And she's like, I want to go to this friend's house, that friend's house. The first words out of my mouth are, oh, where do they live?
Right. It's just,
she's like, Mom. I'm like, Isabella, I can't help myself. It just comes out of my mouth. Right. Like, oh, where do they live? I'm always curious about where somebody lives, which development, which neighborhood. Right.
How long have they been there?
How long have they been there?
Yes.
Do they own or do they rent? I'm always intrigued, and I always ask them. My daughter's like, you're so annoying.
Well, it's in your blood.
Like, it's just so like second nature just to say it. Just like I say, like, good morning, it'd be 5 o'clock at night. I'm like, good morning. It's just like so a habit for me to just say good morning as opposed to like just being, oh, where do you guys live?
Right. It just comes out.
It just comes out. Just like the other thing that comes out of my mouth, they're like, oh, do you have kids?
Right.
Those are like the two questions I ask people.
Yeah.
Like adults.
It's your life. And what makes you relatable. You want to make a connection with people.
Right.
And that's, your normal first question.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
So where do you get majority of your clients?
Majority, I would say, are from our sphere of influence. My, people that I know, past clients referring us. Now, what's unique about Susan and I is she has her own business and I have mine, and we work together. So she's kept all of her relationships and her past clients, and so have I. And then we just cover each other. So that's pretty cool. But we also have I know you know Carol and Diane.
I love them. The twins.
They're like our secret weapon. So
They are amazing.
When I've got a buyer looking for a specific neighborhood and there's low inventory, which we know there's low inventory everywhere, they will reach out and say, we're working with a buyer trying to get into this neighborhood. I don't know if you'd be ready to sell, but if you hear of anyone, we'd love an opportunity to come take a look at a new listing in the development. And they just build relationships. And what's really cool is they have a similar personality, back to that integrity thing, that we do. So when they make an initial contact, if then they meet myself or Susan, it's a seamless transition. So they know that like that friendly voice on the phone transfers to a friendly face and a friendly transaction. Well, friendly when we can be. We roll up our sleeves if we have to negotiate through things. But that caring, committed, same tone that they started with on the phone. So it's pretty cool that we've got Carol and Diane doing outreach. So they work on some specific areas where we're really trying to, get a buyer, a house, or, a listing for the team. But most of it is from people that I know. My last listing came from 13 years ago. I was managing a hair salon, and the owner of the salon referred someone to me. I haven't worked for him in 13 years. It was amazing. So
what does he follow you on social media? Is that how he knows
he watches social media and knows that, knows my personality and my commitment to whatever job I was doing at the time, even though it's totally not related. And it was a great success. So she interviewed multiple agents, of course, and we got it sold in 3 days over asking, and
awesome.
it was a great outcome. So it's nice to know too, when you're being referred, how important that is.
Yes,
how important it is to make sure that that person who encouraged someone to call you is happy.
Absolutely,
it's everything.
That is everything.
So it's mostly referrals, mostly people that we know. Some, as you know too, you may list a house in a neighborhood, and then 2 doors down, someone else wants to list. So that happens also.
Right.
But we're fortunate to have all bases covered.
So what do you do? What are you telling buyers right now? Where are you seeing the market is going as far as buyers and sellers right now in the real estate field?
All right. Well, buyers, I tell buyers, make sure you're within a budget that you can live with. I don't want to promise them that interest rates are going to drop in 6 months and they can refinance and put another $500 back in their pocket. That's not realistic. So I'm very honest and upfront. Don't shop beyond your comfort zone. And by comfort zone, I mean where you can still eat,
Right.
Maybe you're not traveling as much because you're sacrificing for home ownership, which is a great trade-off. But make sure that it's something that you can financially sustain. So, but once you find that spot, don't waste time. Don't waste time. Go in with like the least amount of contingencies. When you find the house you want, we'll help them to make their offer as attractive as possible, because there is still so much competition with inventory being so low. As far as sellers, that's a little trickier right now, actually, is pricing.
Right.
And having sellers who are realistic, which is a great thing when that's the case, and they will take your guidance and say, as Dave, our broker, had said, you don't list higher than the last sale. In this market right now, you're listing at a slightly lower price than the last sale because things are changing, interest rates are going up, and from firsthand experience, once you price it right, you 9 times out of 10 wind up over asking because you've gotten the interest by not being overpriced to begin with.
Right. I agree.
So that's really what I'm, dealing with sellers, is getting them acclimated and relying on the data, but still realizing that the data is where we were, not where we are.
Right.
And that's the key, is really saying, yes, in June we did this, but right now this is what we're seeing, and using that to guide people to make the best choices.
And it's hard right now because, I've got a house that's sitting on the market now about a little over a week. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's difficult, that the sellers don't. When you list a property, I know that buyers agents are like, oh, well, I want to come tomorrow at noon. And
right.
Sometimes you cannot accommodate them.
Yes.
And right before, we would already have like 80 offers that we would be weeding through. And now, sellers can be a little bit pickier, buyers can be a little bit pickier as well. So they're both can be picky on both ends. The sellers can be like, well, I can't show it until X, Y, and Z time, 7:00 at night, only on the weekends.
Right.
You know, so then you're limited to a very small amount of time. And then buyers are like, well, I'm the buyer.
Right.
I want to come in tomorrow at noon. And you're like, well, unfortunately, buyer, you're not going to be the buyer for this house if you cannot work with this. Right. So it's a little hard, but the buyer still thinks they have they think they're getting more of that power back because before it was a seller's market. So I feel that power struggle right now between the buyer and the seller. It's just been that struggle right now.
It is a power struggle, and we're in a stalemate as far as prices go.
Yes.
Because it's still a seller's market, and this is what most people in the general public don't realize. Granted, inventory has increased year over year, but we're still hovering around 3 months of inventory.
I know.
And up to 6 is a seller's market. So we're not even halfway there.
I know.
So it's definitely still a seller's market, but I don't know about you, but my biggest challenge is that sellers are staying put, which is problem number one. Our inventory is so low because where are they going? They don't necessarily want to sell where they are. They're not upsizing and downsizing as much on a whim like they were in 21 and 22, just to say, let's see what we get for our house and what we can find. People are moving now when they have to, which there's still a lot of have to reasons to move in real estate, but they're harder to find. And those houses, the sellers still do have the power because all those buyers are still looking at that one house as opposed to 3 or 4.
Right. Because the inventory is so low, but it's just like, I'm feeling that struggle. I'm feeling that pullback on both ends.
Yes.
And, you know, my sellers they're very firm on their price, or they want very close to their price, if not a little bit more, because that's what they've been used to seeing.
That's what they're accustomed to.
And then the buyers are like, well, we want to decrease.
Right. Now they think they can negotiate because the market is different.
Right. They're like, well, we've seen the house on the market for, let's say, 10 days. I'm like, well, there's a reason for that.
Right.
It's not that we haven't received offers.
Right. It's that the seller is not.
Right. So if you think you're going to come in $50,000 below or 25 or whatever it might be, I'm like, no, it's not happening. No, so don't even waste your time.
Like you say, that's where we are right now, is to educate both sides.
Yeah.
So it's, it's always going to have its challenges. Either we were overworked last year and it was crazy competitive.
Insane.
This year we're more in an educator role, I would have to say, so that people know this is the best. And some people don't listen.
It's hard. I think it's going to take us to the end of this year for people to start adjusting a little bit more because they're still stuck on last year.
But then it'll change again, and we'll be.
It will change again.
But there's one house specifically that I had talked to the seller and given them an evaluation of the home, and they thought it was way too low, and they had already listed and expired at a higher price, and I really dialed in on the comps and the explanation of what else was out there. They didn't want to hear it. So they relisted with another agent. I haven't worked with them. And they listed even higher than their previous price that expired. And it just makes you wonder, like, you cannot reason with everyone.
Right.
Not everyone wants to be educated to reality, as you know, from life.
Yeah.
So, and now that house is sitting on the market for nearly 60 days, where had he priced it where I recommended, he might have gotten just as much as he has it listed for now in a week.
So somebody just took it and then keeps doing price drops?
No, they're just holding steady at this high price that doesn't make sense. Oh. And now it's sitting.
I've got I know agents in our area that just want to take this is their thing. Just take the listing.
Right.
Just take the listing. We'll just take it. Promise them the moon and stars. We'll just take the listing and then we'll figure out a price drop later.
And I don't know that I necessarily disagree with that because I'm a just take the listing girl myself. But I feel
like it's hard though, because I feel like if you don't come to terms with them on the price, some sellers are really set.
Yes. And you've got to know what you're working with.
And me, I really I'm so critical on myself that if I don't get the house sold, I take it personal. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Right. So you want to know you're starting from a place that makes sense to you, which makes
right. And for me, if I don't get a house sold and I get the listing took from me, I'm like, oh my God, what could I have done wrong?
And it's funny because I just had one come off the market in condos. I'm seeing condos.
Oh yes,
are sitting
because their insurance are through the roof.
Yeah, but even some that are like 2-story buildings, 3-story buildings that aren't as affected by all of the changes, they're sitting. So I think looking ahead, like I don't know single family homes where we'll be 6 months or a year from now, but I think condos, that's where we're really going to lose the most control in that market. I think the inventory will grow in condo living, condo options, and then I think we'll see prices soften in that. What do you think? That arena.
I see a ton of condos, but I think that in the market that we've always had a ton of condos and 55 plus.
Yes.
We have not seen so little of 55 plus in forever, or country clubs.
Yes, country
clubs. So those
too.
are the three things that I feel like have always been stuck on the market. Country club memberships, 55 plus, and condos. Those are the three that I've always seen on the market, sit on the market forever. They're a very hard sale.
Right.
Country clubs, you couldn't even get into Boca Grove.
I know.
I mean, people were paying the big bucks to go into these country clubs that were moving from New York, New Jersey, and they wanted that country club lifestyle.
Yes.
You know, and it's like before we would be like, holy cow, we were selling in Boca West. I don't know if you remember this. We were selling condos in Boca West, which is a country club for those of you that don't know it on that listen to me. Boca West is a country club. $500.
Oh my God.
$5,000. $1,000. That's how much we were selling the condos for. And we were paying like a flat fee for them. Boy, oh boy. Had I known now what I knew, what I know now back then, I would have picked up 30 of them.
Seriously. And
they were selling them for like $500,000.
Yeah. People still ask, what about those condos you can get for like $16,000 because you have to pay a fee? Yeah, no.
They don't exist anymore.
Now they're $300,000-$400,000.
They're $300,000, $500,000. Kiss those $16,000.
Exactly.
I'm not even joking. $500.
I know.
I'm talking back in the day.
But still,
they were
existed.
like they existed. You could not give them away because of the memberships were so high and so expensive
and so cost prohibitive for most people. But like you say, if someone's selling in another state and they have all that cash, they just look at it as part of their purchase price.
Right. But then you have your monthly fee on the social clubs.
And your annual spends and everything else.
Like there's mandated fees. I know I have a client now that keeps sending them to me and shows the HOA says $287 a month. I'm like, plus your annual fees, plus your membership fees.
Yes.
So how much does it break down to? I'm like, about $1,800 a month. She's like, what? Yeah. I'm like, that's how much it is.
Well, we just had one in Boca Grove and it's like $40,000 a year after your initial, at closing. So, and that makes sense for some people. It's not the way I live my life or some of our clients, but other people, if they're going to golf all the time and they want that club
and they have that club environment, they like it. Yeah. I agree with you. But that's what, and I'm seeing a little bit of those stay on the market right now a little bit longer. 55 plus, I'm seeing coming back very little. I'm seeing it slow because the only reason why I know is because Century Village, we were selling them for $20,000, $30,000. I just sold one for $159,000 for a one bedroom.
Yes.
So it's like, for me, it's like mind boggling.
Look at Whisper Walk. Whisper Walk used to be I love that community.
I love Whisper Walk.
But it used to be
It's a 55 plus neighborhood.
55 plus neighborhood. They're villas. They're single story. So
they
love them.
They have a garage.
But they were, before the craziness, low hundreds, right?
I know.
And now they're up over
we sold one a few years ago for $79,000.
Yeah.
I know.
And it's just incredible.
I know.
So I'm curious to see if those will ever come back down again. Or if they'll stay there,
Yeah, I'm interested to see too. I'm interested to follow the trend of the country club condo 55 plus because those were the ones that always stayed on the market.
Yes.
You know what I saw the other day on the market? I have not seen this forever. Short sale.
Oh, I just did research too. You did? Where was it?
In Boca.
Really?
In Boca, a short sale. I have not seen a short sale in years.
Right. And
years.
It's sad to say, but I think we may. I don't think our foreclosure market will come back the way it had in the past.
No.
But I think short sales, people have so much more equity now. So that's the difference.
A ton.
But what worries me for buyers from 2021, 22 is the tax increase that they weren't prepared for. The property tax increase, making it unaffordable to where I think, I don't want to prey on misfortune, but I think that's where we'll start to see listings in some of the nicer neighborhoods where the recent buyers were not prepared for the carrying
I don't know, because
costs.
there was so much cash. There was so much cash thrown around last year. The most cash buyers I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
I had lenders calling me like nonstop, like, "Hey, you got any clients?" I'm like, "I'm dealing with 7 clients. They're all cash.
Yep.
No, everyone had cash, so I don't know if we're going to necessarily see that either, because there was so much cash, ridiculous amounts.
It's like 49% of June's
it's so funny. I asked one guy, one of my clients, because you have to show, proof of funds. Right. And I asked one of my clients, he sent me over the proof of funds, and I've never known this man. So, he never like worked a job. I'm like, I have a question for you. What do you do that you have $10 million sitting in your bank account?
What did he say?
I'm intrigued. He just laughed.
Oh, he didn't answer you?
Yeah, he just laughed. Yeah, no, he just kind of like chuckled at me. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
You got $10 million just sitting in the bank.
Right.
He's like, that's just one of his accounts.
One account.
One
And
account.
there are still a lot of buyers that are in that position and they still want to come here.
I had a buyer buy a property. Have you had this yet? They're not doing it anymore.
No.
But with cryptocurrency.
I haven't. I know it happens.
So yes, and I did it and I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, you banked on that very good because let me tell you, the crypto went down on that Bitcoin. He purchased three investment properties. All with cryptocurrency. He bought it when it first came in. He bought a few Bitcoins and then he saw it going up. So he bought a couple more.
That's
he bought
incredible. 3
houses in cash and Airbnb'd them.
That's incredible.
With all
and
crypto cash.
Timing is everything, for someone who wants to
and
get
he
in
said
now.
people thought he was insane by buying this. Yeah. He's like, I'll just spend $600 on a Bitcoin. He's like, that's all it cost me.
That was it.
$600.
I have a friend who got in early too, and it was like $500-$600 then.
Yeah, and that's what he told me. He's like, I bought 3. He's like, and I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
If I don't get anything on it, I don't get anything on it. He's
It's
like,
a small investment to make on a possible return that he got.
And now he's at Airbnb. He's quadrupled his investment, and Bitcoin has really taken a dive. From when he cashed out on it. And I'm like, I tell him all the time, like, you got lucky. He's like, you have no idea. He's like, I thank God every day that it happened the way it happened.
Right.
You just don't know. No. It's just, everyone asks me, where's the market going to be in a year from now? Our house is going to be $200,000 less. I don't see it happening.
No, I don't see it happening either. But I always tell people too, when they want to know, if you asked me like 2 months before COVID, or even when COVID first happened and we weren't allowed to show houses at all, if you had asked me then, I could never have projected this is where we were.
No.
So to even try to accurately project where we'll be in a year is irresponsible.
Yeah, we have no idea.
We don't know.
I told him, let me get out my crystal ball.
Right.
I'll let you know once I find something in there.
If we had that, we could do so many other things with it too.
I know, right?
But you don't know. If interest rates stay where they are, or if they drop, but if they drop, house prices are going to go through the roof again. So it's really the same bag. And that's, again, back to what you tell buyers. If your need to buy a house right now exists, make it happen now. Don't worry about 6 months ago. Don't worry about 6 months from now, because you can't control that.
Right.
You only have right now to make the best decision. And then later you'll figure it out. If interest rates go down, they refinance. If they don't, as long as they know they made a sound purchase to begin with, they'll be okay.
Right.
So you don't know.
You don't know, and it's so hard. It's so hard right now because everyone asks me that question.
Right.
Especially people that have been renting for like the last 3 years.
Yes.
I have a ton of clients they're waiting for the market to crash and they've
Not a good move.
flushed the money down the toilet. Not a good move at all. Because I'm like, now you're stuck.
Right. And all that money is gone.
All that money is gone when, but if you would have asked me right before COVID, right when COVID was happening, we couldn't show houses. And then when we could show houses, we had to wear like hazmat suits.
Right.
Hand
sanitizer
I for
everywhere.
sure, like the market's crashing.
Yeah.
The market's going to crash. I for sure 100% was like, the market's done. It's going to crash.
And
I'm like, we're going to get nothing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoop. I'm like, I would have never predicted this one.
So that's what I
thought it was
people
completely
when they
crazy.
When they want a projection, I give that COVID example, and then they realize what they're asking for is pretty much impossible.
Yeah, and we
know.
can't, unfortunately. Well, I got to wrap things up, Danielle.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
having me.
much for coming in and talking with us. I really
pleasure.
appreciate it. I
It was
loved
great
having
to
you
be
on.
here.
Where
Thank
can
you.
everyone find you?
Brown-ReidyTeam.com, REMAX Services, Facebook,
You have a phone number?
Instagram. Yes, you can call me, 954-559-8524.
She's an amazing residential realtor.
Thank you.
We love Danielle. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a successful week. Take care.